I've completely lost my powers. Oh, Mother, well, I can't believe it.
Neither can I.
A rare allergy to Macedonian dodo birds robs Endora of her powers, which mysteriously switch to Aunt Clara. And for the time being, Darren is stuck with a high-flying Clara and an unbearably mortal Endora. Hi, I'm Mark Simpson.
And I'm David Pierce.
I'm Adam Michael James. Welcome to Twitch Talk.
Hello friends, are you tired, run down, listless? Do you poop out at parties? Are you unpopular? The answer to all your problems is in this big book. It contains dates, trivia, facts, and fun. Yes, with the Bewitched history book, you can spoon your way to bewitched historical health. So why don't you join the thousands of happy, peppy people and buy the omnidirectional, three-dimensional, vectoring, paper-printed omnibus for Bewitched analysis, otherwise known as the Bewitched History Book by David Pierce.
Hi, and welcome back to Twitch Talk. I'm Mark Simpson. I'm the organizer of the Bewitched Fanfare events and the admin of the Bewitched Fanfare Facebook groups and pages. And our next event is scheduled for May 6th through 8th in Salem, Massachusetts. You can get more information by visiting bewitchedfanfare.com. Tonight we'll be discussing episode number 118, Allergic to Ancient Macedonian Dodo Birds. The episode was written by Richard Baer and directed by Richard Kinnan. It was produced by William Asher, and the executive producer was Harry Ackerman. The regular cast included Elizabeth Montgomery as Samantha, Dick York as Darren, Agnes Moorehead as Endora, George Tobias as Abner, Sandra Gould as Gladys, and Aaron Murphy as Tabitha, with Marion Lorne as Aunt Clara and Bernard Fox as Dr. Bombay. Additions to the cast included Dick Wilson as the drunk and Janos Prohaska as the dodo bird. And as usual, we'll begin with the official Screen Gems episode description. Endora and Tabitha finger paint and produce an original Van Gogh. Darren orders Endora to get rid of it, but she can't. Samantha makes the painting disappear, and Endora realizes her magic is gone. Samantha summons the witch's physician, Dr. Bombay. His diagnosis is that Endora has an allergy to the Macedonian dodo bird. Although it has been extinct for a couple of million years, Bombay insists that Endora has come in contact with one. His cure is to pluck a feather from the bird to use in a magic potion. He adds that Endora's magic may have passed to someone else. When Aunt Clara makes a perfect landing, jubilant over her regained powers, Endora realizes that Aunt Clara now has her magic. Endora becomes a whining invalid, making constant demands on Darren. She announces she will spend the rest of her life with the Stevens, which sends Darren to the nearest bar for refuge. Samantha tries to track down the cause of her mother's illness and pops Darren back home. Then Tabitha comes downstairs, followed by a huge bird she conjured up from a picture book. Dr. Bombay identifies it as a baby dodo and manages to pluck a feather for the curing potion. As Endora regains her powers, Aunt Clara is stranded on the roof. Samantha and Darren look forward to a restful weekend, but Endora returns her usual acid self. And the log line reads, Endora's magic is mysteriously transferred to Aunt Clara. Now let's go to David and get some historical information on this episode. David?
Thanks, Mark. I'm David Pierce from Salt Lake City, Utah, and I'm the author of the Bewitched history book, which details all 254 episodes, including reviews and trivia, and other notable moments in American pop culture history. It's available at bearmanormedia.com, Amazon.com, and other fine retailers. This week's episode, Allergic to Ancient Macedonian Dodo Birds, was originally broadcast 53 years ago this week on Thursday, November 16th, 1967, and its production was completed on September 14th, 1967, according to the Screen Gems production schedule. It was the 118th episode of the entire series and the 11th episode of the 4th season. Bobby the Bird was played by Janos Prohaska, who played the Dodo Bird in Season 8's Samantha's Witchcraft Blows a Fuse. He also played other costume characters during the series run and sadly died in a plane crash along with his son and Bewitched makeup artist Rolf Miller on March 13, 1974 in Bishop, California. We'll hear more about Janos Prohaska later in tonight's episode. Now let's go to Mike for his continuity issues. It's all yours, Mike.
Thank you, David. Yes, I am Adam Michael James, author of the Bewitched Continuum, I, Samantha, Take This Mortal Darren, and the new book, Samantha 70s, which is out right now on Amazon. I'm just going to mention a few quick continuity points just to get us started. The first one is when Endora deigns to pour herself some coffee, she touches the pot. Now, that's supposed to be hot coffee, yet she doesn't burn herself. Which metabolism, maybe? The other thing I find is that Darren really regresses in this episode to kind of his first season attitude toward witches when Samantha's trying to figure out why Endora lost her powers, and Darren goes, "Did you fly backwards with one eye shut past a warlock with 6 warts on his nose?" Ooh, no wonder Samantha slams the door on him. It's not funny, and it's really not where Darren is supposed to be at this point in the series. Having said that, there's kind of a neat, almost unspoken way that Endora and Darren work together toward the end of the episode. First instance, when Bobby the Bird comes down the stairs, and Endora is like, "Oh my God, protect me from this thing." She doesn't say it, but that's her total body language. And then when they're discussing, and Darren says, "That's why Tabitha's been spending so much time in her room." And Endora's like, "That's where I came in contact with it." She wouldn't have figured that out unless they kind of had that little discussion together. They don't work together often, but they did here. Back to you, Mark.
Thanks, Mike. Now we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll bring in the panel and we'll discuss episode number 118, Allergic to Ancient Macedonian Dodo Birds. We'll be right back.
Hey Bewitched fans, it's me, Adam Michael James, and if you have been online at all the last couple of years, you know that I am the author of the Bewitched Continuum, the ultimate linear guide to the show, and also I, Samantha, Take This Mortal Darren, my imagined series finale. Only thing is, Samantha and Darren decided that they had more that they wanted to say. Samantha's 70s. 7 supernatural sagas of the Stevens doing the dazzling days of disco. Samantha's 70s starts where I, Sam, left off. Then Aunt Clara gets a backstory and a twin. The Stevens might be having another baby. But are they ready for it? Our mortals celebrate the bicentennial, while our witches explore their attitude toward mortals. Tabitha jumps to a 25-year-old in a purposeful nod to the Tabitha series. Witches and mortals come together for their very first Christmas ever. And finally, wedding bells ring across the atmospheric continuum for a surprise couple.
I think it's terrific.
Soak in the magic of my new book, Samantha's 70s.
Welcome back to Twitch Talk. And before we start, I want to make sure that everybody has their beverage.
Epsom's going to be giving out any demerits this time. Looks like everybody's pretty good. All right. So tonight we're going to be discussing episode number 118, Allergic to Ancient Macedonian Dodo Birds. And we brought the panel in, and along with Mike and David, we have Anna, Eru, Taylor, Max, Susan, and June. Neville is with us again today, and he was here once before. But I'm going to have him introduce himself real quick and just tell us his name and where he's from.
My name's Neville, and I'm from Pennsgrove, New Jersey. And here I am again on Twitch Talk. I love it.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you. And then we have a newbie today on the panel. We have Robert DiGioia. So, Robert, can you introduce yourselves and tell us where you're from and maybe a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Robert from New Haven, Connecticut, and I work for Hearst Newspapers and Magazines as a writer, and absolutely beside myself to be here. Just so happy. Thank you for the invite. Oh,
sure. Well, we're glad to have you. So, again, we're talking about episode number 118, Allergic to Ancient Macedonian Dodo Birds, and this is David's favorite episode. So I'm going to have David give us a brief description of the episode.
So, yes, this is my very utter favorite episode. In it, Endora suddenly and mysteriously loses her powers, and wouldn't you know it, dear sweet Aunt Clara ends up having them, and they got to figure out why this has all happened, and it is a joy every single time I watch it. Every single time.
Okay. So now what we will do is we're going to go through the panel, and you will give your comments, any bloopers that you may have noticed in the episode, or just anything in general about the episode that you'd like to say. And we're going to start with the newbie today. We'll start with Robert.
All righty. Well, I have to agree with David. This is just a phenomenal episode. It really does have it all. We have Clara and Dora, the Kravitzes. If I ran across someone who had never seen Bewitched before, and I could only show them a handful of episodes, this would definitely be one of them. I think it establishes Clara in the family hierarchy, as Anton Chantra would say, because we're kind of fuzzy where she kind of fits in up until this point, but it does come across that she is definitely related to Endora. And not as a sister, but it must be, I'm guessing, Endora's mom's sister. So she's Samantha's great aunt, which kind of, continuity-wise is a little strange in the episode with when Samantha announces Tabitha's coming to Clara. She says, "Oh, I'm going to be a great aunt," but here we see she kind of already is, and I think it also establishes Clara as a force to be reckoned with. I mean, she's sort of back in the swing of things. Like, this must be how she operated in her youth. And we've already seen sort of demonstrations of that throughout the series, where she makes whole courtrooms disappear, or blanks out the lights on the Eastern Seaboard. So it was just she is definitely the OGAC. So I loved every minute of it.
Great. Yeah, I agree with you. I think probably in her younger days, she was probably a force to be reckoned with. And I'm glad you brought up, I was going to mention about how she's related, because things with all of them are kind of fuzzy, except for, Endora and Arthur. I mean, they did state, in season 3 that they were brother and sister. We don't really know for sure where all the other ones, Hagatha and Chantra, are they really aunts, or does she just call them her aunts? There's so many. And as far as Aunt Clara goes, some people think, well, maybe she's related to Maurice, but no. Bombay states in the episode that the powers would have to transfer to a blood relative. If she were related to Maurice, she would not be Endora's blood relative. She'd be an in-law. So, so I think that you're probably right on that assumption that maybe she really is a great aunt to Samantha. But great observations. So let's move on to Anna.
Like everybody said, I love this episode. It would be one of my ones, you talk about like the desert island. It would be one of my desert island Bewitched if I could only have a few there. I love what Endora does with the role physically. I love how her hair is disheveled the entire time. And this has great outfits. I love Aunt Clara's sailor outfit. That's just adorable. And I love the noises of the magic not working. In a story, in music, you want to have something that's the same all the time and something different. And the sounds, the noises in Bewitched work that way. Something magic is going to happen, but you don't know what. But with this, it even tells the story by just the sound. It moves the plot along. So yeah, I love this episode, and I love Tabitha. She's adorable in this episode.
Great. How about you, Eru?
Hello. Zay, the company doesn't look like Bob. But I love this episode because Agnes Moorehead is my muse. And I just love Endora in this episode especially. But I have been concerning about Tabitha's well-being because her father and grandmama are not getting well. Having said that, Endora is fantastic. This is very important. She's not a villain. She's very charming, and it's a comedy. And the way she teases Darren, she's not a bad person. I mean, she just wants Tabitha to get a best education. If I am her grandmother, yes, of course. And who doesn't want Van Gogh's painting? So, in my opinion, I think Darren is the one who has psychological problems. But that makes this series so fantastic and funny. And it's very, very important. They're not getting along, but just they are in Japanese we have saying, the more you're arguing or the more you fight, it means you're getting along well, other than ignoring each other. So I really love the harmony between them.
Okay. Let's move on to Taylor.
So I wanted to do some research on this particular episode, and I was especially interested in the bird, the costume itself. And it turns out the costume actually gets around quite a bit. It starts off 1964 in the original pilot for Star Trek. It's Megasoid in The Outer Limits, also in that year. In 66, it's in a show called It's About Time. It's called the Cuckoo Wuku Bird. Also in that year, it's in Lost in Space in an episode called Forbidden World. Then it goes back to Star Trek in 67. 67, it goes to Macedonian Dodo Bird and Bewitched. And then is it 72 that it goes to Sam's Witchcraft Blows a Fuse? So this bird got around. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is this is my favorite Endora episode, of course. I love that Agnes is channeling her inner Pollyanna character, her character from Pollyanna. She's like lost her beautiful transatlantic pip cheerio accent, except for when she says, "I'm not leaving this house without me powers. So that was the other thing I wanted to say, but I love this episode, and I think that Agnes really delivers just a sparkling performance.
All right, so let's move on to Max.
Hey, well, like everybody, I love this episode. It's definitely one of the top 5. I think I've got about 15 in my top 5, but yeah, this is just brilliant. I absolutely love Endora in this episode. I love the way that it's already been mentioned, but she looks positively divine, and I just love the way that she changes completely. Her hair's disheveled, as already been mentioned, of course, but I also love the way that in the first scene where Tabitha is in her arms and she's just completely playing with her necklace, and they just look so close together, as if like they are a real grandmama and granddaughter. It's just amazing. Yeah, it's just brilliant. She has some fantastic lines. I love it when she like says, "He hates me. He does too." And I just think it's pathetic. It's brilliant to see her helpless. It's brilliant to see her not being the normal Endora. And right from the start of the episode, you know that something's going to happen because you've got Darren like looking upstairs. And I mean, I always thought that Aunt Clara was going to come down the chimney because that would be too obvious. But thankfully, it isn't predictable. And it's just brilliant from the start. It's amazing. I love it.
How about you, Susan?
Well, one thing I noticed when I was watching is when they're making breakfast that morning that Endora has after her first sleepover at the house, and Samantha's making breakfast. You see in the background she's mixing up pancake batter, and you even see her pour some pancakes on the griddle. But then when they really get ready to eat, she serves them cereal. I thought that was a weird thing. How about that, Mike? Crazy?
They had to get all those Quaker products in there.
I'm so fired. I can't believe I didn't notice that.
It just jumped out at me today. I've never noticed it before, but today when I was watching that, I just noticed. I thought another interesting thing about this episode is that suddenly Samantha is able to summon people, other witches and warlocks, into her presence, whether they want to come or not. And usually she's having to yoo-hoo or call for them, and if they don't want to come, they don't come, and she can't find them, and she doesn't know where they are. But here she just says, "Dr. Bombay," and he's there, plucked off his porpoise. And so I thought that was an interesting little thing there. Anyway, and the last thing I noticed is that Endora has this lovely lavender quilt on top of her when she's fainting away in the guest room. And I'm wondering if that was actually Agnes Moorehead's quilt, because she loved lavender. And it's a pretty unusual color in a quilt. So I thought it must be something she brought from home, which is kind of cool. I love this episode. And Endora, when she sends Darren in to get her cocoa, and she's that malevolent smile on her face is just worth $1 million. It's fabulous.
Okay, let's move on to June.
Well, I absolutely love this episode too. It just makes me laugh so much. But one of the things that, I know it's the time period and everything, but it was really funny when he said, "I forbid it." Oh, and I'm like, oh no, he didn't. He did not forbid me to do something. So I got a little, ruffled around the collar. My feathers got ruffled with my dodo feathers. But other than that, this episode is just really cute. I just absolutely love Endora when she's like, "So weak. Oh my God. I can't move. Can you get this for me? I can't lift this." Anyway, it's just great. It's so fun. So yes, one of my favorites.
Okay, and Novelle.
I think I gotta echo everybody because this is definitely one of my top 5 episodes of the series. I could watch this every day and I still cackle as if I'm watching it for the first time. The way Agnes played Endora in this episode, where you see Endora for the first time helpless without her powers, because that's literally her basis of her whole character. And being so meek and so weak, and literally this is how I met Robert. It was that one line when she goes to pick up the tea kettle and literally just drops the line, "Oh, it's empty." Literally cried my eyes out because it was absolutely hilarious. I love the fact that you can also see the Endora Darren rivalry without her powers, because she just annoyed him right there on the patio, and it's still grated under his skin. And at the end, where he basically just flat out says he'd rather her be a witch than a regular mother-in-law, I thought that was awesome. And to cap off of what Anna was saying with the sound effects, I love the sound effects in this episode. One, I love the underscores used because they used more of season 1's music in this episode. I noticed that a lot in season 4 anyway, but hearing season 1 music in this episode was amazing. This whole episode was just a lot of fun. I enjoyed it very much.
Okay, how about you, David? Let's hear your thoughts.
So, like I said earlier, this is my very favorite. It makes me laugh every single time, and it's all because of Endora. Agnes Moorehead should have won an Emmy for this episode alone. I love the patio scene when she's all, "Durwood, help me," and he's like, "You think you could use my real name if you wanted help?" "Oh yeah, that's right. Now what is it again?" And then when she goes off about, "He hates me." "No, he doesn't." "Yes, he does. He hates me. I'll have to live out my life in a climate of hatred." And then one thing I remember that Bernard had said about this episode is that when he's cooing at the Macedonian Dodo at the end, that was not in the script. That was just him bringing up farm life, cooing at the chickens. So I thought that was pretty funny. And then I also noticed that he plucks the feather, and then they do the potion and everything, and the dodo's not mentioned again. Like, it's not zapped away or anything. It's just left sitting there in the chair. So anyway, love. Watch it all the time and laugh every single time.
And Mike, how about you?
Well, to David's point about the dodo bird, one thing I noticed was that Tabitha just zapped something out of a book 3 episodes prior in Safe and Sane Halloween, and I guess she wasn't reprimanded well enough, because here she is zapping Bobby the Bud out of her book. Now, check this out. About 2 days pass over the course of this episode, and she's had Bobby in the closet the entire time. Now, I don't know about you, but have you ever seen what a pigeon does? Now, imagine blowing up several times. I'm sure Samantha and Darren had to call in Stanley Steamer after that little incident. Also, when, to Susan's point about the stirring gently so as not to bruise, and what's the first thing Endora does? She just whips that feather around in her drink like she didn't hear what he said. I'm surprised the potion worked. Interestingly, when Aunt Clara turns, "Our street is a harbor," and Gladys is looking across the street from her house where 1164 Morning Glory Circle is supposed to be, and sees nothing but a harbor. Where did the house go? Where did all the other houses go? It's like, is Gladys's the only house left on the block after that? And the only other thing I have to say is I agree with everybody on this episode. It is one of my absolute favorites as well. I want to give some serious plugs to Marianne Lorne, who really gets a chance to break loose in this episode. I mean, who can resist her? I'm a swinger, and I like to swing.
So, I do like this episode a lot. I do. But I'm, I guess, kind of like going against the grain this time, because if I had to pick, 10 episodes that, I don't think this would be among my top 10. I think Agnes Moorehead, no matter what she did, no matter how good or how bad a script may have been in anything that she did, not just Bewitched, but anything, she gave it her all, and she was fantastic. She was a fabulous actress, and she certainly should have, won an Emmy if for Bewitched, but for this episode alone. She's just absolutely brilliant in this episode. And there aren't really, when you think about the whole series, there aren't really that many episodes where, like Gladys Kravitz, where they're just, actually focused basically on Endora. She's usually there, but she's putting a spell on Darren, or she's not really the main focus of the episode. And I think she was brilliant in this episode. But I think that Endora was just, I don't think she was really as pathetic as she appeared to be. I think she knew Darren was delighting in the fact that she didn't have her powers. And I think she was doing it deliberately to get under his skin, particularly in the part that Susan mentioned on the patio, where she just kind of gets that little chuckle, and she's just so pleased with herself. So I think a lot of it was an act, and she just was trying to get, she was trying to get under Darren's skin, but I think she just wanted sympathy from everybody, because she was, feeling sorry for herself, because Endora's not usually the one that, gets sick. Marion Lorne, my favorite line ever from Marion Lorne is, "I'm a swinger and I love to swing." I mean, that's my favorite line of anything she ever said on that show. And I do agree with Robert. I think, when she has Endora's powers and she's, zapping this and zapping that and threatening to, she actually did turn Endora into a duck, it's like, I think when she was younger and she, had all of her powers, and I think she was really a force to be reckoned with. And, she probably was a little bit wild too. Okay, well, thanks everybody, and now we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in just a minute.
Janos Prohaska was born October 10th, 1919 in Budapest, Hungary. Immigrating to the United States, his thick Hungarian accent prevented him from acquiring conventional speaking roles, and after working as a Hollywood stuntman, would go on to make many memorable appearances as gorillas, bears, and other non-human creatures. It was William Asher who helped Janos start his career as creature costume designer and portrayer when he cast him as Clyde the Ape in 1964's Bikini Beach. He would go on to appear in many TV series of the 1960s and early 70s, such as The Outer Limits, Gilligan's Island, Star Trek, Lost in Space, Land of the Giants, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, Here's Lucy, and of course, Bewitched. He would appear twice as the Macedonian Dodo bird, in tonight's featured episode Allergic to Ancient Macedonian Dodo Birds from Season 4, as well as Season 8's Samantha's Witchcraft Blows a Fuse. He also portrayed the grizzly bear in Season 4's A Safe and Sane Halloween, and the ape in Season 7's Darren Goes Ape. Tragically, on March 13, 1974, while working on the ABC television series Primal Man, Janos Prohaska was killed in a plane crash, along with his son Robert, Bewitched makeup artist Rolf Miller and his brother Bill, and 32 others in the area of Bishop, California. The cause of the crash has never been determined. His ashes are interred at Woodlawn Memorial Cemetery in Santa Monica, California. During the late 1980s revamp of the DC Comics character Blackhawk by Howard Chaykin, the leader of the eponymous group of World War II fighters was revealed to be named Janos Prohaska in tribute to the late actor.
For a few good laughs, the kick of adventure, a quiet moment to share a song. That's part of the fun of life.
Gentlemen, people love classic TV. And what's more classic than Bewitched? But in the 60s, audiences didn't demand the same level of continuity that we expect today. So how to make sense of 8 seasons of Bewitched? The Bewitched Continuum, the only book to compare and contrast all 254 episodes, along with witch illnesses, top 10s, and more. It's the ultimate linear guide. And the slogan? The Bewitched Continuum. Come feel the magic.
Now available on Amazon.com.
Agnes Moorehead and I share something in common. We both got graduate degrees from the University of Wisconsin in Madison. It was on this campus in the 1920s that a young Moorehead received her master's degree in English and public speaking. 80 years later, as I was completing my PhD in media and cultural studies, our paths would cross again. Deep in the bowels of the Wisconsin Historical Society are the Agnes Moorehead Papers, an impressive collection of materials from 1923 to 1974 that includes correspondence, fan mails, clippings, photographs, and other memorabilia. But what's most unusual about Moorehead's collection is that it contains 104 scrapbooks, covering the years 1928 all the way through 1973, including every season of her work on Bewitched. Although the archive officially attributes these scrapbooks to her secretary, Mrs. Georgia Johnstone, in one of the boxes, Agnes herself describes her bed as a kind of office with all the clippings and the relevant materials that she has gathered on one half of the bed and her on the other half every single night. These scrapbooks contain newspaper clippings, advertisements, and other documents related to her career, to be sure. But they also include personal correspondence, Christmas cards, photographs, fan drawings, and even letters from her mysterious foster son, Sean. Google that one sometime. Box 43 contains the Bewitched scripts, including the first pilot, the revised first draft, completed September 30th, 1963. That's an earlier version of the script than anything that you can find online. In these scripts, Samantha is named Cassandra, who is married to Darren Douglas, and Endora is simply called Mother. You can see from Moorehead's notes on the front of the script that she's already working through the various other dramatic witches that she has seen or has played in order to study and base her performance on for this character. Here's how Endora is first introduced. Music, steam, curtains flutter and fly. There's a clap of thunder, and a witch materializes before our eyes. She's dressed in a characteristic wide-brimmed hat and flowing gown, but they are not black. As a matter of fact, rather attractive. The scrapbook that corresponds to the first season of the show includes some early reviews that are clipped out as well. In one example piece by Sally Hammond, Agnes says, quote, "I've never played a good witch before, only the bad ones. Both Rapunzel on the Shirley Temple Show and Mombi in the Land of Oz were both typical wicked storybook witches, but on this series I'm not at all wicked. Quite a sophisticated gal. Endora's very attractive and charming with a supernatural philosophy all her own. The humans in the script do plenty of foolish things, and she loves showing up their foolishness." That's an amazing impression, by the way. "All my childhood was on a fantasy. I lived in the kind of world as a child. I read all the Grimm fairy tales and all the Andersen fairy tales and adored them. I have a great sense of imaginative background, so I based Endora on my background. What I already know about magic. Of course I'll act differently than a mortal. You don't go around moving furniture, go out and smoke, come back and smoke without acting different." Although Bewitched is often played down in Moorhead's acting legacy and biographies in favor of roles from her film and theater career, you can tell from these scrapbooks that Moorhead devoured and savored every bit of attention that Bewitched's early years brought to her. One review especially seems to highlight that, quote, "With so promising a beginning, a viewer imagined that here, possibly, was the funniest new program of the season. In the comparatively small role of Samantha's mother, Agnes Moorehead managed to look regal, sinister, and utterly glamorous." Another letter writes, "Dear Miss Moorehead, you are very beguiling and bewitching as Endora. Your performances are, as usual, excellent. Bewitched is quite amusing. It will be a pleasure to see you every week. Good luck. Long and successful series. Serious sincerely." These are just a few of the wonderful trinkets of her life that she has fashioned into a valuable repository of film, theater, and television research, all donated to the University of Wisconsin. And anyone, including you, can go and visit the papers and do research on her life and career. It isn't limited to a precious few. That's not how she wanted it. To read these scrapbooks is to sit with Agnes Moorehead, a real person whose mystique, privacy, and discretion make her an otherwise captivating figure. Fundamentally unknowable, of course, but with a few bewitching secrets to share.
It's heavy. Duckstone and lettuce. Present form. Forget us.
Janos? Where's Tabitha?
She's upstairs playing.
Well, I wanted to play here. She's been playing in her room all morning. I thought Samantha was going to make me some cocoa.
I'll see what's keeping her.
I'm sorry about Endora, but I'm a swinger, and I like to swing.
So welcome back to Twitch Talk. And now we're going to do our reviews and our ratings. We're going to go through the panel, and we're going to rate the episode from 1 to 4 stars, 1 being the worst, 4 being the best, and then we'll go back at the end and we'll average it out, and we'll go back and we'll determine the overall rating for this episode. So let's start with Robert.
All righty. Yeah, definitely 4 stars, and a shout out to the writer Richard Baer. He just at his peak here. I know he wrote 23 episodes, I think, of Bewitched. He worked on That Girl. He worked on The Munsters, and he wrote some of my other favorite episodes, Eat at Mario's and Driving is the Only Way to Fly. And yep, 4 stars.
All right. And how about you, Anna?
Not even a question. 4 stars. I love that this episode is focused on Endora. I mean, usually she pops in, the story comes from her, but it's not focused on her. So 4 stars. Wonderful episode.
Great. Eru.
I totally agree with you. Wonderful episode, but I would give this episode 3.5 because I always feel sorry for Mrs. Gladys Kravitz, first of all. And second of all, I feel a little bit sorry for Tabitha. And I just felt she needs to be more, I don't know how to say in English. They need to take care of her more, in my opinion, because what kind of parent who don't notice dodo bird in her closet for one day? It's neglect. And Samantha has been so nice to Endora, but Bobby is her buddy, and she needs to be more loved. And I am Japanese, and Japanese parents are really like, Japanese children are spoiled anyway. So 3.5.
Okay. I agree with you. How did that bird stay so quiet in that closet for like 1 or 2 days? And Dora's up there in Tabitha's room playing with her, and Endora can't hear that bird in the closet because that bird was always squawking. So, yeah, that's kind of odd.
Eru is right. It's like Tabitha had no friends. She had to put one in her closet.
Yeah. Okay, how about you, Taylor?
Well, my friends are in my closet too, so well, I give this episode for its heavy stars.
Okay, and Max.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my! I want to give it 5 stars, but I know I'm not allowed to, so 4 stars, obviously. The one thing that does puzzle me is why Samantha doesn't zap up some new clothes for Endora, because she did stay the night, and she's like, the next morning. And also, like Eru says, I worry about Tabitha, and I do think that child spends a lot of time on her own. But yeah, 4 stars.
Okay. Susan.
4. Because it is perfection.
And June.
Yes, I have to say 4 also, just on Agnes Moorehead's performance herself. So.
Hey, Novell?
Definitely 4 stars. I love the fact that this episode is Endora-centric, and that's it. 4 stars all the way, baby.
Okay. David, like I have to, ask.
Well, I'm going to give it 10 stars.
Well,
but I mean, it's 4. It's
okay.
The pinnacle of every Bewitched episode.
And Mike.
#free Tabitha. Oh, sorry, I just had to get that out. I love this episode. We get to see Endora as we've never seen her before. We get to see Clara as we've never seen her before. So I'm going to do something I've never done on Twitch Talk. And I'm going to give this episode 4 stars.
All right, well, I'm going to do something that I've never done on Twitch Talk, and I'm going to kind of go against everybody else. Again, I love the episode. Not one of my top 10 favorites. I'm giving it 3 stars. Sorry.
Ooh, hiss, hiss.
Sorry. Okay, so we've averaged out the reviews, and the overall rating for episode number 118, Allergic to Ancient Macedonian Dodo Birds, is... .86.
I demand a recount.
Well, you don't need a recount because when we round it up, we come out with 4 stars.
Yay!
Yay!
As it should be.
Okay, so let's take another break, and then we will come back and wrap things up. Be back in just a moment.
On with the binge watching. Load up the next disc.
Can't. That was the last one.
You mean Bewitched ended on a regular episode?
That's right. Series finales weren't a thing when Bewitched was on the air.
Adam Michael James?
We love your ultimate linear guide to the show.
Hey, didn't you come up with a series finale in that book?
Sure did, baby. Only now, I've novelized it. I, Samantha, Take This Mortal Darren not only brings our supernatural sitcom full circle, it brings back beloved characters and creates backstories for Samantha and Darren.
Wow, 5 stars on Amazon.
All the reviews say it reads just like an episode of Bewitched.
Well, thank you. I'm just doing my thing. But I'm most proud to say that I, Sam, builds on the show's messages of equality and acceptance.
Sounds groovy, AMJ.
Thanks for these.
Hey, McMahon and Tate never did freebies. But you can pop over to Amazon or order them from Barnes & Noble. I'll boost ya. Oops. Should have also told them the ebook is on Kindle and iTunes. Well...
I, Samantha, Take This Mortal Darren, the series finale Bewitched never had, in print and ebook.
It's Thanksgiving, and thanks to Aunt Clara's bumbling, the Stevens and nosy neighbor Gladys Kravitz are transported back to Plymouth and the very first Thanksgiving, where Darren is promptly accused of being a witch. Join us next time on Twitch Talk when we discuss episode number 119, Samantha's Thanksgiving to Remember. Thursday, November 26th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific.
Yay! All right, Thanksgiving time.
All right, well, welcome back to Twitch Talk. And before we wrap this up, David, Mike, do you have anything that you wanted to say?
Just join us again for Twitch Talk next time.
It's always going to be a fun episode with a lot of witchy goings on. And don't forget, Samantha's 70s is out on Amazon.
Definitely pick up a copy. Yay! Okay. So I want to thank Robert, Eru, Taylor, Max, Susan, June, Novelle, and Anna. And best Twitches, everyone. See you next time.